Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about the United States presidential election, which is currently ongoing here and throughout our United States. That's right, all the United States are having the election, of course. And today we're talking about the first debate, which happened earlier this week. It happened a few days ago. We've had time to reflect and go over things, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it and also go over some reactions from the public. The general consensus seems to be mixed. Both sides seem to claim they won. But I do have some polls to show you that have some more leanings towards Trump doing a better job. I, of course, support the president and believe he did a fine job, although not perfect and seeming a little bit, adversarial, let's say. Well, besides getting a little contentious, the debate went pretty well for Trump and the right-wing side. Joe Biden seemed a little old, a little frail. He was talking in a high-pitched voice. He just seemed like he couldn't keep up the whole time. And Trump, on the other hand, seemed confident, strong. He was aggressive, and he definitely had maybe too many interruptions, but that was part of the strategy. He had to face actually two opponents in this debate. That's what we're going to talk about more today, about how the host and moderator named Chris Wallace, well, he was supposed to be like the right-wing moderator. They picked like 3 different or 4 different moderators for these debates, and they try to pick people in the middle and then someone from the left and the right side, like left, center, middle, right, center, middle, stuff like that. But Wallace really proved to us that he was supporting Biden in this effort. He tried to seem unbiased at first, but his anti-Trump hatred came out pretty clearly by halfway through the debate. We're going to go over the details and figure out why. I mean, essentially, he's probably either getting paid off or he's suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, and it caused him to not only defend Biden and not hold him to task on certain questions, but he also went overly aggressive against Trump. He interrupted Trump more. He cut Trump off more. He even seemed to get a little flustered and started quivering in his voice. So we're going to go over that more soon. We're going to talk about the details, get to some evidence and some polls and stuff like that soon. But first, let's take a moment to check out our sponsor. Believe me, I know how important collagen is for your body. 70 to 90% of your skin, joints, tendons, and bones are made up of collagen. Your gut depends on it too, and even your hair and nails contain collagen as well. I also know that after 20 years old, collagen production decreases by about 10% every decade. That's a lot, and that's why I started taking ageless multi-collagen. Just add 1 scoop of it to whatever you're drinking at the time. In the morning, you could put it with your coffee or a protein shake. You could have it with tea or juice or whatever you like. And then in less than a month, you'll start experiencing younger looking skin with more vibrance, and you'll have more energy too, just like me. All you have to do to get this great product is visit healthwithnobs.com. And don't underestimate it. I've certainly seen a huge difference in the appearance of my skin and hair. This ageless multi-collagen coming from BioTrust works by providing powerful nutritional support that promotes skin, hair, nails, joints, bone, teeth, and gut health all at the same time. Plus, if you order today, we'll offer free shipping by going to my custom link right below this video, or you could type in healthwithnobs.com. Thanks for your time. Hope you enjoy this product. And now back to the show. Great. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk more about the debate. This first tweet comes from the War Room. It says, Chris Wallace only interrupted Joe Biden 15 times. Wallace interrupted President Trump 76 times. This is a very, very damning statistic. Someone went through and counted all the interruptions. It's pretty clear that Wallace favored Biden. That's the focus of today's story. And it's also an interesting stance because Trump still seemed to win, as we're going to see with some polls. Here's the first one. This is from Telemundo. It says 66% of their viewers think Trump won that debate. This was very upsetting for that Spanish language news channel too. They try to cover this up and avoid showing this data, but we saw it live. We have the picture here. The Reagan Battalion shared us a little screenshot, and it just goes to show that the Hispanics are leaning towards Trump. You can't really lie with this. You can't really deny this. This was like an open poll, I believe, on the internet, Twitter, maybe on the phone or text or something. But the point is, a lot of people did think Trump won, even though it was a bit wishy-washy in the middle there. It was a contentious debate, but Trump called Biden out on a lot of things. He raised a lot of great questions, things that people want answers for. Like, for example, he was asking Biden about the stacking or the packing of the Supreme Court, which means that the Democrats kind of want to add a bunch of judges so they can have more Democrats on the Supreme Court. Biden refused to answer that because we know that's what he plans to do, and he doesn't want to admit it because that'll give him a bad look publicly. So he dodged the question. There was other things he avoided answering, like Trump called out Biden for having his son get hired and sent millions of dollars by Russia. He worked at a big business in the Ukraine. He handled money in China. Like, Biden's son Hunter got all these advantages from being Joe Biden's son. So there's a lot of nepotism there, a lot of corruption. election. Trump called that out, but Wallace was just not having it. He was not calling Biden to task. In fact, the worst part was he wasn't just like going with the flow and being in the middle. He was defending Biden and like catching bullets for him while also like calling out Trump, and he was like attacking Trump, and he held Trump to task on some really strange things. For example, when the issue of riots and violent groups came up, they didn't call out Biden for not calling out Antifa and BLM, who have violently tore down this country for many months. Dozens of people died, millions in property damage, buildings are burning down, people are getting hurt out there. This is undeniable that Antifa and BLM are causing big problems. Those are left-wing organizations that support Biden. He wouldn't call them out. In fact, all he said was that Antifa wasn't a group, it was an idea, which is totally ridiculous. I mean, that's just an absolutely insane thing to say. We've seen the videos, we've seen the evidence. People have been arrested and said they're Antifa. They've been interviewed. It's happened time and time again. And Wallace let that go. The host just let that go. And then he pivots to Trump and says, hey, will you denounce white supremacists? And Trump was just kind of baffled by it. I mean, he answered right away, actually. He said, sure. He said, yeah, I'll denounce them. Why not? And then Wallace just repeated the question 2 more times. He's like, well, then denounce them. And Trump's like, I already did. And then Wallace is like, well, then why won't you denounce them? And he basically had done it 3 times. There was a point where Trump kind of took a pause and he looks at Wallace like turning his head and he's like, are you serious? I've denounced this group many, many times, but the real problem is Antifa. The real problem is the violent left. Why are we talking about this group that's virtually non-existent? Have you guys heard of any supremacist rallies? Have you heard of them going out and destroying buildings, burning stuff down? Have you heard of them harassing people at restaurants? All this stuff is happening with Antifa. BLM is doing that right now. We have evidence of it. They're the big problem, but Wallace and Biden are trying to act like this imaginary group is a problem that basically doesn't exist. If they do, no one's supporting them. No one thinks anything about them. They're not platformed. They're not speaking on public websites. They're not even allowed to have accounts. So it's just like a non-issue. It's like bringing up the boogeyman. They might as well say, hey, are you afraid of Martians? Will you denounce the Martians? Because Martians are a big and interesting issue, right? Like, yeah, let's talk about Martians while we have freaking Antifa destroying our cities day after day. Portland's in ruins. Chicago is the murder capital of the world. All these liberal run places are falling apart. And that was the big turning point for me. And that was the point where, Trump started to get more frustrated. He had to stay on the offensive. He was basically in a 2-on-1 situation, but I think he still pulled through strongly. I think that's why he's still polling well. That's why he's winning these polls. Here's a funny, very funny, interesting one. It says CNN instant poll of debate watchers on who won: 60% Biden, 28% Trump. So this isn't surprising. I mean, this is the same network that said Hillary Clinton was going to win like 99%. So there are companies and places trying to put this bias poll up there. Obviously, CNN is watched by like the worst liberals ever. So you could see it's going both ways, but at the same time, I mean, it's like they're not going to vote for Trump anyway. And honestly, this is kind of high for Trump on CNN. Him giving 28% on a CNN audience isn't that bad, really. Like, honestly, like he should have gotten like 1% if you judged by the way they report things and the way their biasness runs. But that's not the only one. Here's another interesting poll. This is the Hoover Institute. This is a very kind of conflicting place because it's a pretty conservative leading academic institute, but it's based in California. It's at Stanford, like one of the best universities in California and the country. So the fact that the Hoover Institute has a poll saying that Trump won by a large margin, I mean, you got to ask yourself, is this like centrist? Is this people on both sides? Is this the Californians kind of admitting that Trump's winning? This is a big win too, 13,000 votes and 82% going to Trump. So there's a lot of reactions to that. People are triggered. Obviously, the left is upset. The reaction to the debate tells you a lot too, because they basically just started coming after Trump with this supremacist stuff that was based on nothing. They reintroduced the fine people hoax, which was debunked many years ago. Like, Trump didn't call these bad racist people very fine people. That's a made up fake quote that they took out of context, mishmashed around and just pretend that that's a real thing. And it's a total travesty that that came up in the debate again. I can't believe they were talking about that in a certain event related to that. That was very controversial, but it was 3 years ago. And they talked about this like it was relevant today. No, we're not even going to brush over or talk about all these violent protests this summer. They go back 3 years and try to bring up this fake quote from an event that was far less interesting or violent than anything that's going on with Antifa or BLM. And that just goes to show, like, Wallace was batting for Biden. It was more of a debate between Trump and Wallace a lot of ways. Biden kind of just sat back. There were a few points where Biden actually just repeated the host's quotes. Like, he was just repeating what the host said, like they were really in tune and on the same side. And yeah, it just goes to show that like this is why Trump had to be overly aggressive. He may have come off as like a bully sometimes. He had to be over the top, but he was facing a tough opposition in a tight place. And I think he did the best he could. A lot of people are going to see his strength through this, and a lot of people aren't. You know, people aren't going to get their minds changed, but those people already were not going to vote for Trump. Like, this is more about the middle ground people. This is more about the swing votes in the swing states, and they're not going to want to go for someone like Biden who just stands on lies. He just makes stuff up, brings up these old quotes. He won't denounce Antifa. You know, he won't admit that his son had these errors. He gave him money and millions of dollars during his vice presidency. And in addition, there's some other topics we didn't even get to yet. But first, let's talk about this article. This is the New York Times, wondering if you could have some takeaways. Trump trampled over everything. So they're obviously going to be for Biden. They're obviously going to show some bias here, as did Wallace, as did everyone involved. I mean, it's like Trump can't catch a break. And I think that's showing, and that's actually going to go in his favor because Trump has the world against him. He doesn't have the support of all the mainstream media and everyone giving him the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't have like all the newspapers backing him like Biden, all the celebrities. Even the host of the debate is trying to help Biden along like he's like an injured man. Biden at his strongest pivoted to the camera and away from Trump. So I don't know what they're talking about here. Biden didn't look strong. He definitely was more coherent and, you know, prepared than many expected, but that was just him doing the bare minimum. People just had such low expectations from Biden. Him just standing up the whole time was given a prop to people. You know, people were trying to give him a win because he was just happened to be able to last the whole debate, but it was just 90 minutes. Like any presidential candidate should be able to pull this off. And the fact that Biden barely eked by should worry a lot of people. Trump still wants to wear the outsider mantle. I think they're trying to say he's like an insider now, been the president for a while. And I don't think that's wrong. I mean, he's been the president for 3.5 years or so, and that doesn't make him an insider all of a sudden. I mean, Trump came from the business world. He came from entertainment and real estate and all these other ventures. And that's what we needed. We didn't need these career politicians like Joseph Biden, who has been in office for 47 years and hasn't done enough to help the country. He acts like he's going to fix it now. And that's why Trump said that. I don't know if it's 37 or 47, but he said something about, yeah, it's 47. He said in 47 months, Trump has done more than Joe did in 47 years. And I think that's a good quote. That's a good takeaway. Trump is very active. He's very much on the offensive. He's getting stuff done. He's making deals. He's bringing peace to the Middle East. He's lowering taxes. He's building the wall. He's getting us out of wars. Like, he's a very effective, very energetic, and very aggressive president. And that's what you want. You don't want a pushover. You don't want someone old and frail like Biden who's going to get pushed around, not only within our country, but we got to think internationally. Do you want a president who's weak like Biden and is going to get pushed around by other world powers, China, Russia? Who knows? India could come up. Lots of people in Europe are still players. You know, those people are going to take advantage of Biden, but they already know Trump is the one that's tough. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell for notifications too. Until next time, have a great day.